Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
We offer local economy in the free market, and especially when an attack on the right of property is directed by good people locally, good people in the town hall, good people in the local branch of a regulatory agency, and whom we see maybe at the store, right? People whom we might see at the gym, who are the enforcers of the other side, making the claims of the state against a private property owner. And so it makes it really kind of difficult when it's your neighbor who is making process against you, making claims against you, against a right of property, a right of under the Constitution to buy and sell or to hold title to an asset. This is David Tulis. We're brought to you by Trade Bank of Chattanooga, the smarter way to barter and to improve your cash flow by trading among 400 local businesses in every field. Find out more about Trade Bank of Chattanooga by calling 877-2202. That's 877-2202. And make sure that you eat lunch today at Choo Choo Barbecue of Hickson, which has a great takeout service, by the way. Great takeout at Choo Choo Barbecue of Hickson, 870-7894. And you will enjoy the secret rub and the delicious barbecue smoked flavor at Choo Choo Barbecue of Hickson. The story that we want to consider now is that of Carol Gaddy and her husband Thomas, a carpenter. They are defendants they are in view of the good people, if you will, in Dunlap, Tennessee, over in the Sequatchie Valley. And Carol has been busy defending her property, trying to keep off inspectors and trying to figure out why it is that city government wants to what she understands to be taking over her land and the house in which she and Thomas have lived for some time. The crisis began in January of 2015 in what she believes is a hidden agenda, and there is an interest to remove her and her husband and family members as they come to visit from this property. Well, Carol, tell us what is being said about you? What are the claims made against you and your ownership of this house in Dunlap, Tennessee?
Well, the last week of January, the mayor came down at dark down the driveway and demanded that we stop working on our home, which we have been restoring this beautiful historic property for 18 years, and he demanded that we stop working on it and tear it down. And my husband asked him, did it have anything to do with another permit? And he said, no, we're not going to permit. I deem this house unlivable. And of course, at that point, I was insulted and angry. And I told Dwayne Land that I deem most of his trailers he rents in Sequatchie County unlivable. Why didn't he go tear those down?
What was the basis of this claim that your house is unlivable? Was the work being done, the improvements being done on your house without permits, or what was the ostensible claim? Carol Gaddy? Oh
no, we have permits that date back to every authority that we're supposed to permit under. Sequatchie Valley Electric Cooperative, the inspector signed an affidavit, which we put in with our answer. It is a totally trumped up claim by the mayor and whoever is backing him. We understand a fella in Chattanooga named Chad Reese with Southeast Tennessee Development is involved in this because he contacted our county appraiser, who also is backing our defense by signing an affidavit stating that we have met all local standard, code, FEMA regulation, which we have. We're experienced builders, David.
Now, tell us about the accusations made against you and the forum. These charges are being aired and already in part have been aired in Chancery Court.
Yes,
we're Sequatchie
in the 12th
County
District, 12th Judicial District, Chancery Court under Chancellor Stewart, and the city attorney is Stephen Greer.
What is Stephen Greer saying?
He is claiming that he needs to come inside of our private personal domain and take pictures. Okay, my question is, who wants these photographs of the inside of my home? Where will they end up? In whose hands? For what purpose? I mean, this is clearly an invasion of our private property rights.
Did he say that he had a warrant signed by a judge under oath?
No, he does not.
Does he allege that there's any kind of criminal activity taking place at your property?
No.
Carol Gaddy?
No, absolutely not.
So what is it? So he wants to come on the property. He, the attorney, the agent of the city,
Yes.
he wants to come and take photographs. Does he want to take photographs of the kitchen sink piping, the bathroom, the attic, the foundation? What exactly does he have an interest in there?
Well, the way I see this, David, this is to case out the inside of my home. And I'll go back and give a little detail that's important here. In May of 2014, while without any notice, and while my husband and I were out of town, the mayor, I didn't know this until we got the Exhibit A on May the 11th this year. The mayor and his buddy from Kimball and their building inspector and one other person, there were 4 men that were at my property without our knowledge, and we weren't home. And they took, at that same time, they took 25 photographs of my deck, everything that was personal on my deck, around the yard, around the house. What followed in the and I have police reports that prove this point. What followed?
Did you file a complaint with the police?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And the first one, I said my fence, my side fence on the sewer line easement, which I graciously, freely gave to the city of Dunlap in 2002 to help them get their sewer fixed. Okay, the fence was cut from the top to bottom. When I went to the police department to pick up the report, it said Ms. Gaddy phoned in, her fence has been damaged. I tried to get that corrected, but the police chief is so afraid of the city mayor. He doesn't even want my car seen in front of the police department. Unfortunate for us, David, the police chief is also our county commissioner, and he is afraid the mayor will come down there and fire him in his job, so he will not correct that police report. But we had a break-in. In other words, everything in our home was robbed. The 5 people all were from Dunlap.
But they did not enter your house. They just entered the premises through the fence.
Well, this robbery happened after those men were out there.
Well, now, what are you saying? There was a separate incident when some other party, not connected with the city, presumably, came and stole property from you and your husband.
In the weeks that followed, we have never had aggravated burglary in the 18 years we've been there. But after these men were out there taking photographs and on our property, we experienced several break-ins. We experienced an attempted demolition of our home. The support beam immediately under the back roof of the section that had not been restructured, because we were working it from the ground up with these steel reinforced concrete piers to meet FEMA regulation. Okay, the beam was underneath the back of the roof. Someone broke that support beam. After that roof came down, that's when these men had their photographs. This is what they've got photographs of. Well, look at the back of this house. It's all fallen in. So at the same time, our 9,000-pound winch, Wren winch, bolted to the back bed of our pickup truck behind the house, was stolen. And whether it was one person or a number of people, we have no idea because we weren't in town. But it would be easy for someone to use a winch like that on the center of a support beam and pull that beam down.
The only media outlet that has covered your situation is TV3, which has sent twice reporters to Sequatchie County. Sarah Cetery was assigned, and also Natalie Potts assigned by the probably what's the best television station in Chattanooga, TV3, and rather detailed reports. And that's what alerted me to your situation. The stories quote the town attorney named Steve Greer as saying things such as this: there are myriad issues in this case. That's one of them. That's the question on the floodplain. He says also, if they think they've done what they're required to do, why won't they let us look at it? If you have nothing to hide, show it to us. He's quoted as saying by TV3. And also, He says, no, they're in violation of all sorts of city codes. They're in the floodway and all kinds of problems with what they're trying to do. The chancellor said we could inspect, and she will not allow it. We will let him deal with that. So that last sentence, I think, touches on the contempt. Is there a contempt order against you, Carol Gaddy, and your husband, Thomas?
Yes, the city attorney is asking the judge. We don't know what's going to happen the next time we walk in that courtroom. He is asking the judge to get our attention by incarceration. And the city attorney seems to be very anxious to do my husband and I as much harm as possible. They're doing us great financial harm since May of this year in this restraining order that would not allow us to finish the work on the outside of our roof, putting the metal on.
We have on the phone, we have on the other mic here, we have Thomas Gaddy. Thomas, are you something of a slacker when it comes to building? And do you have any kind of help that's slackerly as well, helping you on this house, or are you somehow, would you say, qualified in the world of construction?
Yes, my son is qualified. He's took the exam for the state of Tennessee, and he's passed it. And it's like small industrial and home and construction.
That's your son, Kelly.
Kelly. Yeah.
Now, what is your background, Thomas?
My background is actually an electrician, and I have a license to be an electrician.
State of Tennessee.
And state of Tennessee, and I'm also a construction worker. Yeah, we built homes since 1982. We built homes as a family orientation.
So you're I'm asking you these questions because it suggests to the listener that you are someone who can certainly modify a house, even over the period of 18 years, do a little bit of here, a little bit of there, of construction and improvement of the house. These are not things that are hazards to your health or the health of your wife or anybody else.
No, that's true.
Okay, so your house, you would say, Thomas Gaddy, is structurally sound.
Exactly, it is.
Okay,
Yes.
it's nothing is about to fall on my listener. Let's say if my listener comes to visit you for a coffee, right? There's not a beam won't fall on his head.
No.
Okay.
It won't whatsoever. We've built this house. We used I-joist. It's on 16-inch centers, which is overrated, really. For that, it could have been on 24-inch centers, but it's on 16-inch centers. So every time we build something, we overbuild it.
Well, say something about the floodplain. I don't quite understand why FEMA regulations had to be met, as Carol Gaddy is telling my listener. What does FEMA have to do with it? What does the creek nearby have to do with your property? Is there a danger of flooding? What's the story?
Well, actually, 3/4 of the town of Dunlap is in the FEMA flood zone. So part of our house is out of the flood zone, part of it is. But we did a survey, a transit survey, is showing that the creek, our house is 8 foot above the creek level. So that thing has to rise up 8 foot before it touches our house.
Does that happen very often?
No, only like in 2003. That's when the big flood came. We've had here lately about 3, 4, 5 days of rain, and it didn't come up to the bottom of our house. So
well,
we're out of the floodplain zone, really, because we got a house built on concrete, steel reinforced pillars. It's up off the ground, so it ain't got no problem with flooding.
So we're hearing, this is David Tulis. We're talking with Carol Gaddy, and you just have been hearing her husband, Thomas, who's a carpenter and an electrician. And sorry, this couple in Dunlap, Tennessee, has been resisting claims filed against them in court now, in Chancery Court of Sequatchie County, to remove them from the land. But the steps, though, are not that initially. They are to have an inspection. There is a desire to have an inspection against this couple, and the work that Mr. Gaddy and Carol Gaddy have done to improve this house. It's a very old house, and they've lived there at least 18 years, and they've been dithering about making repairs as they go and improving it. And so, Carol, tell me, let my listener have the best understanding that he can get from you of what are the claims. What is the substantive claim being made about your ownership of this land? Are there just doubts, or is there something substantial that evokes the police power? The police power, of course, is evoked when there's a public interest in the area of health, safety, or morals. That's when police power can be exercised. What is the substance of this accusation against you?
Well, the only claim, of course, as I said, David, the city has no actual basis for this lawsuit whatsoever. It is a totally frivolous lawsuit, totally designed to promote their own hidden agenda in stealing a valuable piece of private property, which we have owned for 18 years. One reason, the length of time in this restoration of this beautiful historic home, we did not want to get a mortgage from the bank. We wanted to have it paid for by the time we retired. We are senior citizens, and we wanted this house to be paid for, and it is paid for, free and clear.
So this is a house that does not have is not under a mortgage or a mortgage insurance contract.
That's right. We're our own liability, and the city did get a grant from the governor for a greenway that goes on the other side of the creek. I saw the engineering. I've got a copy of the grant. I read it, and it in no way is supposed to encroach across that creek onto our property. So why Dwayne Lamb, the mayor, and his buddy in Chattanooga, Chad Reese, are attempting to, spend so much of my neighbor's tax dollars to sue us. See, the home, David, is grandfathered. And that means, because it's been there 150 years, and that means the home secures the land. And since this recent threat of going to jail, contempt of court, my husband and I also showed them a federal common law lien, writ of attachment, that we put in our title back on June 1st. After our first time in court, when the city got their restraining order on May the 12th, we decided, okay, when we saw how the action went in court, the judge only listens to the city attorney and does what he wants.
Well, say something about your background, Carol. You have, how many children do you have? What kind of work you've done in your long life and career? What is your background?
Well, my husband and I were married in 1965. We have two sons. As he mentioned, our eldest son is the one that holds the past Tennessee written exam for contractors, the big test, the one that includes commercial and small industrial. We have been in the building business. We were approved by the federal HUD program in 1986. It stated that Gaddy Family Builders were qualified to certify their own plans and specifications. And what that meant is we were building so many homes for a bank-owned development in Georgia. And of course, Tennessee does not have this program at this time. It was through the Atlanta Regional Office, and it speeded up the construction to do away with over half of the FHA inspections. And that was the purpose of going through this program and this paperwork.
Well, now let me ask you, you're talking about some work here. Are you saying that you've worked in the family business? Were you like the bookkeeper of the Gaddy family construction business?
Well, I mean, my personal career,
your job? My
personal career was real estate for 25 years. And I held a broker's license in both Tennessee and Georgia. And my last office location was on number 19 Rankin Avenue in Dunlap. And that was in 1996. And that's when I decided to retire my license. And of course, I have also worked in construction with my husband and my son. And I would like to say, David, that no one else has done any work to this home except the three of us. Every board, every LVL beam. There are 10 LVL beams. I believe my husband mentioned that we.
What does LVL mean?
That is a pre-engineered beam when you're spanning space that takes the place nowadays of what used to be the angle iron that would support open spaced areas, because we wanted to put a great room and we wanted to save the front wall of the house and for the historical benefit of it.
This is David Tulis. If you need to have a lunch out of town, you need to go to Wimpy's in Saudi Days. Wimpy's is a little restaurant right across from Town Hall. At Wimpy's, at the great table, the men with their hats and their overalls and their somewhat grimy fingers settle the affairs of the town. That's at Wimpy's restaurant, the gathering place. There's a side lot meat broiler that's often smoking away with the best barbecue that you can eat. There's a basic meat and three menu coming out of the kitchen. And, of course, meat and eggs at dawn, omelets, and the like. Great coffee. Wimpy's is a place to go out of your way to visit. If you're a German here helping Volkswagen in its distress, find out what the Americans do when they eat American, when they eat Southern. They go to Wimpy's restaurant, just opposite the town hall in Saudi Daisy. It's worth the ride. It's deeply Southern. This is David Tulis. We're talking with Carol Gaddy and her husband Thomas about a crisis in Dunlap, a property rights crisis where seemingly arbitrarily and capriciously state actors are trying to seize private home.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Tulis.
One of my favorite writers is Charles Hugh Smith, and he believes in democracy. He believes there is such a thing as democracy. And in a very fine essay at his website of twominds.com, he says the formal machinery of democracy generates tax statutes, but in actual practice, super wealthy individuals and entities are laws unto themselves. And he cites a very long New York Times article about the private tax system that saves the elite, the wealthiest, billions and billions of dollars. And there is a hollowing out of the democratic form, the form of democratic government, the form where you have representatives, you have government, and not so much the state. And what we have now, even evident here in Chattanooga and in the Chattanooga area, we have a kind of hollowed out, as Smith would say, a hollowed out democracy. It's filled with what? What fills the life of a democratic society, of a free society? Well, it is filled with authoritarianism. And what we have to understand is a kind of arbitrary and capricious way among the high actors in the modern state, even down to county government. And sometimes county governments can be more vicious, more persistent, more dogged, more intelligent, since they have local feet on the ground, than state actors who come in from afar, who zoom in from the Capitol and take a stab at you and your business. There's a great book that came out in 1944, The Road to Serfdom, by Friedrich Hayek, and he has a chapter that talks about why the worst get to the top. And we're not talking in this story out of Sequatchie County. We're not talking about murder or anything like that. We're talking about something much more seemingly harmless, which is the seizure of a couple's house from them for no clear cause, a seizure that's in progress today, with cases, with hearings not yet set, but hearings ahead for Thomas and Carol Gaddy, whose story was covered by a single media entity in Chattanooga, anywhere else that we know of, and that is TV3, David Carroll's station, doing yeoman's work covering this story. But Hayek says that, explains how it is that the worst rise to the top. And it happens not just in national government, not just in the IRS or the FBI or secret agencies or police departments, even in county governments. He says, but for a while, the mass of citizens of the totalitarian state, it is often unselfish devotion to an ideal, although one that is repellent to us, which makes them approve and even perform such deeds. This cannot be pleaded for those who guide its policy. To be a useful assistant in the running of a totalitarian state, it is not enough that a man should be prepared to accept specious justification for vile deeds. He must himself be prepared actively to break every moral rule he has ever known, if this seems necessary to achieve the end set for him. Since it is the supreme leader who alone determines the ends, his instruments must have no moral convictions of their own. They must, above all, be unreservedly committed to the person of the leader. But, of course, this book was written during the time of Hitler and Hirohito and Roosevelt. But next to this, the most important thing is that they should be completely unprincipled and literally capable of everything. And so what we have is we have not just the hollowing out of democracy by authoritarianism, we have the hollowing out of even local economy by people devoted to principle of the state, devoted to principle of the town corporation, or devoted perhaps to a local leader, a local influential person. And we have here in the studio Carol Gaddy of Dunlap, Tennessee, and she is struggling to maintain the right of ownership of an old house that's 160 years old that she and her husband on what was 103 Main Street. Now the address is 1271 Main Street. They're trying to maintain possession of this property and to keep off nosy inspections without a warrant, inspections which pretend that they are incompetent people who are living in a house about to fall down on them or other. It's not really clear what the agenda is, but there is a machinery in process against this couple. Carol, what is the best thing we can say about the accusations against you and your husband? What is the substance of the claim against you? What is the reason of the suspicion and the hostility against you, as best you can tell?
Well, in the beginning, I thought it had to do with the Greenway grant because the mayor, they're constructing a greenway along Coops Creek. And of course, my property goes to the center of Coops Creek. When they file this lawsuit, I mean, it's simply a theft of a valuable piece of private property. That's the way we see it, because they have absolutely no basis and no grounds. And when I was able to obtain the complete lawsuit file, which was May the 11th, and we had to be in court the next morning, May the 12th, with a pro se without an attorney, the city attorney, Stephen Greer, claims that he inadvertently left all the exhibits out of the lawsuit through 2 filings over the previous 3 months.
So you were caught by surprise at the hearing?
Yes, absolutely. They had, we actually knew that someone had attempted a demolition of our home in May of 2014, but we couldn't imagine who would do such a thing. And then when we got those exhibits, and here was 25 full-page photographs of the destruction to the back beam of our house that occurred. Photos.
Now you're mentioning these were photographs taken
a year before
by someone who broke through your gate while you were absent, while you and Thomas, your husband, were absent.
And they actually cut the fence from the top to the bottom along the sewer line easement. We had given the city a sewer line easement in 2002 under Mayor Wagner. I've even had a neighbor visit me that suggested that because of the good solid contract that I demanded from Mayor Wagner that he signed as mayor of Dunlap in 2002, that may be their secret agenda as to why they wanted to work so hard at getting rid of us.
What are you saying, that the city wants to extend its easement, or I'm not sure what you're saying?
The point I'm making is my contract. I'm a real estate broker, and the contract that I insisted on to give the city free of charge some of the most valuable part of my property. That's my property that is out of the floodplain, but close to the right side of my home.
And you're saying that they could presume to have authority to cut that fence to get into your property because it's on their easement, an easement that you granted the city.
It's on a sewer line easement, but my contract stated that because I was giving them an easement to put a new sewer connector, gave them 30 feet of the right side of my frontage, right beside my driveway, that if they, because of this gift, did any damage to my property of any nature, of any kind, then or thereafter, that the city would be responsible for paying for it. But because this contract has been totally violated all these years, and they raised the street level in front of my house to deliberately make my driveway a funnel shape to funnel all the street water underneath my house to also attempt to destroy it. And this process has been going on, David, for 10 years. The city has been involved in this kind of destruction and harassment for 10 years.
Is there some reason that they have to not like you? Is there something you've done or said, or have you run for office, or have you published letters to the editor that are negative of city government, perhaps?
I have written several letters to the editor about the careless spending in the past of our city. It's certainly not a great economic base there. This Mayor Land, when he went in, said he was going to promote business. Well, since he's been in there, he's raised raised taxes on all the small business throughout the town twice That's 2 full percent. Well, he went in. I ran for city council seat in 2009. And that's when the mayor went in office as mayor in 2009. And as I said, in this last election, he put a full percent sales tax on the ballot. And of course, he got that. And the way that the money is spent in the city in the past, I have questioned. And I've actually wrote a letter to the editor on one occasion questioning the certification of our police officers in Dunlap, because some seem not that well trained. And I respect all authority. I have a great deal of respect for all officers and judges and our courts. I believe all authority was given to the people by God in heaven as a covering to protect the people. I mean, people need a peaceable median to work out their conflicts, and that is what the courts are for. But unfortunately, the judges have taken a rulership over in these courts, and they don't want the common people in their courtrooms defending themselves. We were minding our own business. It's the city that came after us with this lawsuit. So we have a perfect right to go into the courts of our country and defend ourselves in that court. It does not belong to the judges, and it does not belong to the attorneys at all. It belongs to the people, and that's what we're doing. And our Tennessee Constitution, David, states, and this is almost the exact wording in under Article 1, Declaration of the People's Rights. And I suggest everyone read that section of our Tennessee Constitution. If you don't read the whole Constitution, read that portion. And in court, I told the judge it is my sacred duty to resist because my Constitution tells me to resist. That means we're standing under the covering umbrella of our Tennessee Constitution in our fight in this cause, David. It says the doctrine of non-resistance to arbitrary power is absurd and slavish. And that's the exact wording, David.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Carol Gaddy of Dunlap, who, with her husband, Thomas, are trying to maintain the right ownership of a house, which is kind of under a siege by city government for reasons not clear to her, and we can perhaps surmise some of these reasons. But Carol, let me tell the listener we have tried to make contact again with Steve Greer. He's an attorney in Dunlap. We just had Russell Stroud, our news director, call his office and say, would you please come on the air to talk with us about this case? I contacted him earlier last week asking him to send me all the filings that he has made against the Gaddys so that I might present his arguments in their fullest form to you, my listener. But I've not been able to get any satisfaction by that, and our call to his office has not yielded him on the phone, so he must be a very busy man with his caseload, and so not able to come right now to chat with you, my listener. We are here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, and we cover local economy and the free market. Our suggestion is that we love our neighbor and buy local, and also that we live out our liberties as if they existed. And I think that's kind of what Carol was pointing out a moment ago. Is kind of an odd thing. You have the Constitution is a promise. It's a kind of a covenant between the people and their government. And it's also a promise. The promises of liberty adhere really only to those who say they have them and who live them out and who are willing to be penalized and to have distress and trouble to maintain them. Well, Carol, how come you don't have an attorney in your case? Are you and your husband poorly, can't afford an attorney, or when will you have either counsel or representation in your case? Well,
David, the first time in court when we discovered that we were not going to be allowed to present our proofs at all. We've been to court 3 times this year, and we still have not been allowed, had a fair hearing and been able to present our proofs. We went and talked with a local attorney, and she wanted $5,000 on the spot and said it would cost $10,000 to get this restraining order lifted. And we thanked her for her consultation and walked out and decided to pray about it. And just as a couple under our covenant, our holy matrimony covenant under God, that God would protect us as we walk through this very dark area of our courts. And the as I said, the lawyers and the judges, I respect the court, but I wish the judges would respect the fact that when they sit on that bench, they're sitting in God's delegated earthly position, and not their own, for their own amusement and their own playground.
They are on the state payroll. In this case, they're on the payroll of the county, but they are established by under constitutional warrant, and have a representative function. So one should always hope from judges not just administering of cases, but justice. And you're saying you would like to have justice in this case. You're like the widow in the parable who keeps annoying the judge, saying, well, I have to be heard. I have to be heard. You must defend me. You must protect me. And I think we have gone so long in the era of commercial government, Carol Gaddy, that it's hard to get judges to care about justice. They care. I think they tend to care more about the state and its interest, and somehow they are on the payroll, obliquely through the county, but they somehow have forgotten to care about the bright glow of constitutional liberties, and then people before them standing in that light. You're trying to do that, and you're suggesting in your comments, Carol Gaddy, that they're not even seeing you. Somehow you're just kind of a shadow.
Yes. And I would like to mention before our time is up, David, one more point. One of the exhibits, I know this is what you've asked me, what is their basis? Well, I say they have no basis, but the exhibit that they presented was City Ordinance number 88. And I received it at 4:00 in the afternoon on May the 11th and had to be in court the next morning at 9:00 on the 12th, which this is 8 pages long. And I studied this. When I read it, I had time to study this ordinance. And what I discovered, David, will surprise you. The city commissioners are violating ordinance number 88. The mayor is violating ordinance number 88. The city attorney is violating ordinance number 88. The only people I can discover that have no violations under their exhibit B, ordinance number 88, is us.
Well, maybe what you can do is try to establish, Carol Gaddy, bad faith. Everything you told my listener and me is that the city is acting in bad faith, and to establish that, you have to simply lay out by what I would suggest would be administrative notice. You make an administrative notice to all the parties, and you simply state what the rules say or the law states. You're not making an argument in this, but you're simply laying the groundwork for later when you sue for damages, possibly, that they are acting in their personal capacities. In other words, if these actors are acting under law, they have the cloak of the law, right? They're protected by the statute or the ordinance. But if they're acting personally, apart from the law, and even as you're suggesting, mentioning this 8-page ordinance 88, against the rule, then they are acting in their personal capacities. And I think that part of your argument might need to be, and this is a point for you, my listener, to consider, that when you're being harassed, ask yourself, how can you show that state actor is acting personally and not under lawful authority? In other words, he's acting under color of law without the actual law behind him. So is that...
Well, I have stated in open court, David, that the Dwayne Land, the mayor of Dunlap, has a personal vendetta against me. And these men that he and they're so-called inspectors also are going to do exactly what Dwayne Land tells them to do. This is a collective effort by these men. Now, the big secret agenda here is that this other fellow, who is a friend and previous development partner in business with our mayor, Dwayne Land, is Chad Reeves from Chattanooga, and he's with the Southeast Development Corporation or whatever it's called. So I don't know, if there's a further agenda there between these two men. It simply, I just see it as a lawsuit to steal a valuable piece of property. And of course, this home, as I have mentioned, the first judge of Sequatchie County built this home 150 years ago. And part of the 18-year preservation of it, David, has been because we wanted to carefully preserve as much of the structurally sound original home that the judge built while we phase in the new with all these LVL beams and I-joists to make it a livable, new, and comfortable home for our retirement years.
We're talking with Carol Gaddy, who sounds like she might have grounds for further research in the Tennessee Code. The Tennessee Code, Title 39-16403, is the official oppression statute, and it begins by saying that a public servant acting under color of office or employment commits an offense who, and there are a couple of points, who intentionally subjects another to mistreatment or to arrest, detention, stop, frisk, halt, search. seizure, dispossession, assessment, or lien when the public servant knows the conduct is unlawful. Or point 2, intentionally denies or impedes another in the exercise or enjoyment of any right, privilege, power, or immunity when the public servant knows the conduct is unlawful. So you establish, I think to establish that, you want to lay out the groundwork of your rights by notice. You have to give notice, Carol Gaddy, to these state parties. And then when they have notice, they then can't go back and say, well, I did it unintentionally or unknowingly. See, that's there's what's called a good faith defense. Good faith defense is when the state actor says, well, I didn't know the rules were there, but you deny them that good faith defense if you say, well, you were notified by registered mail of these parts of the law. Did you read that correspondence? Yes or no? Well, if they did or didn't, they did receive it, and so they're duty bound to obey the law, which is meant to protect your rights.
Mm-hmm. Yes, David. These individuals, we're praying about this situation, and we're waiting now. Since I have just prepared right before Christmas, I prepared my first order of the court, asking for the dismissal of all charges. So this gives the city attorney and the mayor an opportunity to back out of this gracefully. Yes. Or if they choose to continue, then we must continue the fight.
Carol Gaddy, thanks for joining us here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.